background. I wonder, just what is your perspective from those two backgrounds of the watershed sciences and watershed health?
I think it's a bit of a conflicted background, honestly. I think it's hard in some ways to bring those two things together. And as a scientist, I think about how these ecosystems function and how we can make the most out of this ecosystem function. And an example of ecosystem function might be maximize the number of fish we can harvest. From a more literary background, it's hard to bring beauty into sort of an ecological framework, and that's a very important aspect of ecosystem health that I think scientists struggle to grapple with.
So measuring the aesthetics and the spiritual quality that people get out of a healthy system?
Right. It's difficult for scientists to quantify that. And as a scientist, I don't know how to quantify that. I mean, you can ask how much would someone be willing to pay to go to a beautiful watershed, and so that puts a dollar figure on beauty. That still doesn't quite capture it. I mean, in these beautiful forests, you see the sun streaming through, and how much am I willing to pay for that? It's hard to actually give a reasonable answer. So the quantification of beauty, and scientists try to quantify things, is a difficult thing.
So in that light, I see people turning towards trying to expound on the ecological services and helping people to understand that a healthy system, that they get services from that system every day. So without being able to really quantify the spiritual values they get, how do we continue to engage people to keep them connected to the environment so that they care for it?
Right. I think first of all that we actually need to try to look for these services a little bit more. I think it's a pretty recent study in ecology, and we really haven't looked that much to see if people live longer in healthy drainages. I mean, there's been some suggestion of that, but more study of this and actually putting some numbers to this can be done in some quantifications that matter to people. And while it is hard to put a number on beauty, I think people know beauty when they see it. I mean, I don't know if you've heard that already today, but that's something that's come up over this weekend. It's discussion.
Is there a way to get people to say what their values are, and then to actually, I'm going to go a different place with this. You know, just wondering, as someone that's really just getting into maybe being a practitioner out of school and really into the practice, where do you see your future discovery of science and delivery of your scientific projects to more of the populace so that they can make wise choices with their decision?
So I see my role, I can do two things. And the first thing is to actually incorporate humans into ecological systems that I study. And that hasn't been done that much. Scientists oftentimes love to go to these beautiful places that don't have anybody else in them. And yet that's sort of a selfish goal in my view, because the majority of systems in the world have people in them, and every system in the world is affected by people directly and directly, indirectly. So I think by studying systems that have humans in them, that will allow questions to be asked that are more applicable to people and be more interesting to people. And then secondly, I hope to not just publish in scientific literature. I hope to talk to people, publish in literature that people who aren't hard scientists would read, and just get involved with other avenues of communication.
So do you have hope that as population grows, as we become a more global economy, do you have hope that people will have connections to their environment and that we can have sustainable communities?
I think you always have to have hope. There's huge fears as well, and I think globalization is a problem. If people are moving around too much, it's hard to learn enough about a certain spot to really get involved in that spot and to learn the feedbacks between your actions and the health of that ecosystem and how the health of that ecosystem can affect your own health. So there are concerns, but there are hopes, and I think one of the real avenues for the development of sustainability is really going to be emphasizing how people depend on these services that ecosystems provide. And enunciating those services will hopefully bring that to more people's attention.
So when you talk to your peers at the university or just in the community that you live, what are their concerns?
In terms of ecosystem health.
In relation to ecosystem health, but what it will be like for them as they age and their children.
Right. I think one of the main concerns is just having places to go with their families or with their children or with their friends, and just places to get away from society or high population densities, places to find that beauty and relaxation and soul rejuvenation that people find in beautiful places. In the sciences, I think people are afraid just of some of the more basic aspects of life that watersheds provide. Will we have clean water in the future? I taught limnology this fall, and a lot of the students were really questioning whether or not there's going to be enough fresh water to go around in 20 years. And in some areas of the world, there isn't enough fresh water to go around. And I think those fears are really important and becoming more important.
And do you think the youth are motivated to act?
It's a really hard question. I would hope so. I think some are. I think some aren't. I think again, this loss of place can take away motivation, and the loss of place can reduce those feedbacks between actions and reactions, such that when someone does something and it has an impact on a local scale, does that feedback to that person? If they're living there, yes, it will. If they're not living there, no, it won't.
So as we jet through our globe, people are becoming less and less connected with it. Yeah. Okay, I think that's good.